In this lesson, we want to look at the growth, or we might say development, of Jesus and understand what the implications are for us. The first point is that Dr. Luke, who would have been very sensitive to the specific areas of Jesus' growth, Dr. Luke describes Jesus' growth in 4 areas. He says, Jesus grew in wisdom, he grew in stature, he grew in favor with God and with favor with man. And when we take those terms and put them into more contemporary words, we say that Jesus grew in wisdom, he grew physically, he grew spiritually, and he grew socially. So since he grew up perfectly, he becomes a model for us. And if he grew in these 4 areas, then we need to also grow in those same areas in order to become like him. And the second point is that Jesus did not have perfect conditions, perfect circumstances in which to grow. He didn't grow up in a Western middle-class home. He grew up in maybe a 1 or 2 room home with no running water, with no electricity. He only had maybe 1 or 2 sets of clothing. He certainly didn't have Nike tennis shoes, but he had sandals. He had enough, but it wasn't abundance. It wasn't material abundance. And so if Jesus could grow in circumstances like this, including a very oppressive political environment, it means that we don't have to have a perfect environment in which to become what God created us to be. And the third idea is that we want to understand that development or growth is moving from where we are in relationship to our likeness to Jesus, to becoming more and more like him, to becoming closer to what God's purposes are for us. There are billions of snowflakes, but everyone is different. And when God created me, when he created you in our mother's wombs, he had a very unique, specific purpose for us. And in order to fulfill that purpose, we need to grow in these 4 areas. And we need to grow towards God's purpose for us. Now, finally, the 4th point is that God's purpose for Jesus was to serve us. That's how we know how much God loved us, is when he served us. And that means that our general purpose, the reason God made us, was to love others by serving them. So the 4 points of this lesson are: Jesus grew in 4 areas. In wisdom, he grew physically, he grew spiritually, and he grew socially. And that means that we need to grow in these areas. The second point is that Jesus did not have a perfect environment in which to develop. And that means that we don't have to have a perfect environment to be what God created us to be. And the third point is that our growth, our development, is based on the concept of becoming more and more like Jesus. And the 4th point is that the purpose of Jesus' growth was to serve. And that's how we know how much God loved us. And the implication is that that's our purpose, to serve others. And that's how they will know that God loves them.